The Urban League Guild and the programs that they're hosting this year, I think we're going to talk about them in the second half of the show. But the Urban League in the past has done a great job in the city of Elizabeth in cultural events at the library and some plays. They put on some one-act plays on Saturdays at the library are filled with Urban League Guild presentations. Do you remember the one about the back at the Civil War time, and they
Frederick Douglass.
Frederick Douglass, that's right. It was going to come to me.
I know.
But it was a one-act play.
Yes.
That guy was really good.
Yes, about 5 years ago, because I remember my son was about 2, Tyrell, because he was there for a moment, and it was excellent. An excellent storytelling of historical events where children can actually see it, and they can visualize it for themselves.
You know, there's an article in the New York Times the other day about Frederick Douglass and Elizabeth Cady Stanton and how they were very active in the abolition movement of the 1800s. And Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Frederick Douglass then split because Frederick Douglass was very supportive of getting the African American and the slave the right to vote. And Elizabeth Cady Stanton thought women should have the right to vote first. And today we have a presidential candidate of African American heritage and a woman leading the polls in the Democratic primary. It's interesting 100 years later.
It is. Come a long way, baby.
Yeah.
That's what the Virginia Slims commercial used to say. But it's, yeah, we have come a long way.
You have a lot of your plate next month, and what do you think is the most rewarding aspect of participating in the city's Black History Month celebrations? I
think the most rewarding part is that it's open to the public, and it's free for anyone to come, to see, to bear witness themselves, and it's good to share one's culture in a wholesome environment. You know, it just opens us up as a society. I think a society that lacks the sharing of cultures, lacks the sharing of growing, it lacks intelligence. And just look at what happened during the Dark Ages when there was nothing. You have mass confusion. I think as more we celebrate our cultures here in the city of Elizabeth, I think a better city will be.
Well, Black history has been instrumental in our community, and you talked a lot about Steve Sampson. And it was Steve Sampson who led the effort to make sure the building of the new courthouse back in the 60s was integrated with African Americans. And I know Steve's passed, but he's told you those stories as well.
Yes, yes. He was a walking historical document himself. He knew so much history. He loved the city of Elizabeth, and he fought for equality for all, for African Americans, for women. And it's just good to have known people like that. It's really good.
The events like this in the city, and you mentioned all cultures. The African Americans or the Black Americans, what it's called, have dedicated the month of February to Black history. Do you think other cities should follow either our lead or we should do more? And how do you think this plays into, like, your sons? Do they get any knowledge out of this? Because I know you bring them.
Right. They get a lot of knowledge when it's appropriate. I allow them to be in the programs, and they see people that look like them come together in a happy atmosphere, in a celebratory atmosphere, sharing thoughts and ideas, and it's good for growth. It's good for human growth, and as you say, I bring them to let them see it's good. I can't keep them locked up at home or from school to home or school to their activities. They need to go out so they can broaden their horizons.
Now, being the mother of 2 young boys, is African American history taught more in the schools now? Because when I grew up, when you grew up, it wasn't taught at all.
Well, the schools that they attend, it is being taught a little bit more. Also, they attend church school, Sunday school, so it's being taught there. And we try to embrace it in our home daily in terms of, you know, what we see. Sometimes even our food, our ethnic food, you got to let them know, oh, yeah, they love Portuguese chicken and Chinese noodles, but they also love fried chicken and the collard greens and the macaroni and cheese. So it's just knowing, just being aware of the different cultures, and one is not better than the other. It's just some of them are different. And
well, my daughter came home the other day, Jacqueline, as you mentioned earlier in the show, and she started asking questions about Martin Luther King and what he was all about. So obviously in her class they're teaching it, the history of what this man was all about, which is extremely important as well. Martin
Luther King Jr. is taught, I think, in all school districts. And because they were both coming home with stuff about Martin Luther King Jr. The Weekly Reader has stuff on Martin Luther King Jr. He's probably the most taught African American, I think, in the school systems.
And the target audience for the programs, young people, seniors,
Yeah,
everybody.
it's just a cross-generational program. The adults and the seniors need to hear what people are saying to the young people. They need to reinforce what's being said. It's for everyone. But the target is really our youth, because our youth needs to be connected to our past, to our history.
Which events, there's a whole host of them, but
There is.
you want to highlight some events that the Urban League Guild's working with the City of Elizabeth on?
I think they're really trying to, this year, to incorporate the youth. You know, we always want to thrust and make sure our youth are not being left out of any discussion, any celebration. So I believe they're working on Saturday, the 9th of February, at the library from 1:30 to 3:30. It's going to be an empowerment and self-esteem program. Now, it's about letting youth know, because a lot of times the youth, they're hooked up with hip-hop because it allows them to lower their self-esteem. You know, it plays on their mind and their intellect. So what we have to do, we have to begin to say, look, you can be more than a hip-hop rapper. You can be more than what they say in those songs that they sing, those lyrics that are so degrading. You can be more than that. And I think the Urban League is trying to capture and focus in on raising the awareness of the potential in our teens.
And what? And the other Saturdays in
The other Saturday,
February,
they're having on the 19th. They always do something for our seniors. Which is a real nice event. I believe it's going to be at the Steve Sampson Center again on Tuesday the 19th. From 2 to 4 in the afternoon. They'll be highlighting seniors throughout. And it's not only just for Elizabeth, it's for all of Union County. The Urban League Guild focuses on the eastern part of the county. So it's not only for Elizabeth, it's also for Roselle and Hillside and Linden. And so you'll have seniors coming in from Rawway, all coming into the city of Elizabeth. And then we can showcase the Steve Sampson Center, and some of our other buildings that we have here. And I think it's a good job that they do to pull everybody in.